Hello everyone, I hope you're all having an excellent Sunday because we have another wonderful clash between Thomas Wilson Barnes and Paul Charles Morphy, and of course welcome back to the good stuff. Now it's really a wonderful game, as the title suggests. It is the first one, I believe, that we're showing where Morphy actually goes for Morphy's defense. So without further ado, let's check it out, as it's quite a beauty, this one. So Barnes continues with his e4 ideas with e5 by Morphy, knight f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. So the Ruy Lopez is on the board. And finally, we have a6 by Morphy. Morphy goes for Morphy's defense. And okay, bishop to a4, Barnes retreats with the bishop, we have knight f6, and now knight to c3. And as Morphy is a big favorite of fighting for the center of the board, he goes bishop to b4. Develops nicely the bishop and attacks one of the pieces that are currently engaged in the fight for the center of the board, currently defending the e4 pawn. So Barnes says, okay, you want it, you can have it. He goes knight to d5, and already there are some very nasty ideas here. Barnes is saying, do you maybe want to capture the e4 pawn? However, if you go for this, then Barnes can just remove the defender of the bishop, and Morphy will lose a piece here after captures and captures. Morphy will be down a piece. So Morphy says, okay, let's go b5 first, not allow bishop captures on c6. Bishop to b3, and now still not going for material. Morphy, big fan of development, continues with the d6. He wants to get the bishop into the game, castle, and so on. So here, after d6, we have castles by Barnes, and it is as of move 8 that this position has never been reached again. So let's see what happened. Bishop to g4 by Morphy, he just nicely continues development, and now c3. Barnes prepares to strike in the center with the d4. We have bishop back to a5 by Morphy, and now d4. So grabbing the center, Morphy's king is still in the center of the board, so it does make sense to open up the center. We have e captures on d4 by Morphy. And now Barnes removes the defender of the d5 square, which is the f6 knight. You could also develop with bishop to g5, you could recapture first, but Barnes knows what he's doing. He goes for knight captures on f6 with check, queen captures, and now bishop to d5. And now it's very unpleasant for Morphy. How does he defend the knight here? He could defend it with something like king d7, could go bishop to d7, there are options here. However, Morphy just defends by not defending at all. He goes knight to e5, and he goes for the attack. Now there's a triple attack on the knight here, and he gives up a full rook on a8. So what can Barnes do here? One way is to just capture the rook, which is what Barnes did. You know, Barnes is an attacker, but in these crucial moments, we've seen in every game where he can grab a rook, he always grabs the rook. There is the option of going bishop to g5, which is just an all-out capture fest. Now with bishop to g5, we go into queen captures. You give up the queen temporarily, knight captures, bishop captures, you get bishop captures, now bishop to e2 going after the rook, we get captures here, but now captures, and only after captures does the bishop retreat. And we get this position where black has two bishops, white has a bishop and a knight, both players have a rook, and well, there's this tension in the center, but all in all, a pretty equalish game. Black should be somewhat better due to the bishop pair. So that is one option for Barnes. However, Barnes goes for the rook right away. He goes bishop captures on a8, and now Morphy is, free to attack at will, which he does. He goes knight captures on f3 with check, g captures, and bishop captures. So now the queen is under attack, but also there's the threat of queen g6 mate, as the bishop covers these two squares. So it would be, well, of course, okay, you give up the dark square bishop, then queen captures, that's mate. So Barnes defends this with queen to d2. Now queen g6 will be met with queen to g5, and if Barnes can get this in, then he should be just winning, because, he did just grab a full rook there. And this is what he's going for. However, Morphy goes for d captures on c3. Now, of course, you cannot capture because of bishop captures. There's the queen and the rook. So queen to g5. But now with this queen to g5 move, Morphy is actually completely winning. So feel free to pause the video here and try to figure out why Morphy is completely winning while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the double attack. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's c captures on b2. Point being that now if bishop captures, queen captures on g5 is checkmate, and if you don't capture, well, there's not much you can do. The rook will fall, or the bishop, doesn't really matter. Sorry about that. Well, Barnes just decided to bring back the bishop for the moment, get the king on a nice dark square so he can trade the queen with check. And while Morphy can go king to f8, it will still result in opening of the g file. Morphy says, it doesn't really matter, I'm just gonna go king to e7. But here with king to e7, you kind of allow Barnes to like make it a little bit interesting, because if he goes rook to b1, then okay, Morphy can grab the bishop here, and only now after queen captures with check and g captures, rook captures on c1, at least you don't have rook to g8 checkmate, because you've freed the f1 square for your king. However, Barnes again goes for queen captures on f6 with check right away. Morphy plays g captures, and now Morphy is threatening this, he's threatening this, and he's threatening just rook g8 checkmate. The bishop still covers these two squares. Okay, after, of course, the bishop blocks. So, bishop to f4. Barnes now has to give up the rook on a1, so he can defend checkmate with bishop to g3. So, Morphy goes rook to g8 check. We have bishop to g3, defending against checkmate, and only now b captures on a1, grabbing a queen. So, rook captures on a1. Now, okay, the f1 square has been vacated for the king, but now f5, taking advantage of that this capture is impossible due to captures. And now Barnes has to decide what to do. And there isn't all that much. f4 is coming, and you will not be able to move the bishop, so there really isn't much you can do here. King f1 is one option, but Barnes first decides for a4. He says, okay, I'm gonna give up the bishop, but at least I might create a pass pawn here, and I do have the a8 square defended with my bishop. So while Morphy could go f4 right away, he first goes bishop to b6. He has a very, very nasty idea here. So Barnes goes a captures on b5, and now Morphy just goes f4. He traps the bishop here. Barnes creates a pass pawn here. Now, of course, a7, a8 is coming, but Morphy now plays f captures on g3. Barnes recaptures, but now there's the problem of this pin. So rook captures on g3 with check. The f pawn cannot capture. We have king to h2, and now, well, you could go rook to g2 with check. Morphy finds a very cool idea, rook to g6. And now he says, okay, Barnes, you go ahead and push this a7 pawn. However, it doesn't really do all that much, because if you push a7, here what Morphy prepared is bishop captures on f2. Now with these four squares covered, it doesn't matter if Barnes gets a queen into the game, rook h6 is checkmate, as there's a wall here the white king simply cannot cross. So Barnes saw this, he said, alright, we're not giving up the f2 pawn. He played rook to f1 defending it, but now Morphy can do the exact same thing, only a little bit differently. So for the last time, feel free to pause the video and win this game for Morphy. It's a mate in 4 for black, so while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on using the exact same idea, only 2 squares upwards. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's bishop to d4. What Morphy is planning now is going bishop e5 followed by bishop to f4. And then it's the same. We had the idea where the bishop was here. Now Morphy wants the same wall with the bishop here. So Barnes tries to escape. He plays king to h3, but there is nothing better. Bishop to e5 by Morphy. The bishop is coming to f4, and this is unstoppable. We have king to h4, and now comes the bishop to f4. The wall has been created, and there is nothing much to be done. So here, Barnes could have resigned, but Barnes, the gentleman that he is, he just played a7, and he allowed mate to appear on the board, which Morphy did. He played rook to h6, and this was checkmate. So on move 30 we have checkmate, and what a wonderful victory for Paul Charles Morphy. So again, we have a really crazy game where Barnes really gives it his best, and then in the crucial moment where he needs to step up, he just grabs the rook instead of going for that capture fest we've shown. So it's weird. Barnes has this huge potential. I think Barnes had the potential to be like the greatest player of that era if he maybe had an opponent like Morphy to look up to. But with Morphy gone, I'm pretty sure Barnes could just, hold his own against anyone. And I don't think Barnes was all that. I mean, he was a chess player, of course, but I don't think it was like the main thing he was interested in life. It was just, something that preoccupied him, but he definitely was a huge talent. But if you're wondering why Barnes started marching with the king, why not leave the king there? It doesn't really help him, because after this bishop to d4, you can just like, if you play something else, it's still just mate on the spot. It's like you can go rook to h6 check right away, but you can also just give check, king h3, and now rook to h6 is check. It doesn't really matter. Or even if somehow the king winds up on g1, then rook to h1 will again deliver checkmate. So not much for Barnes to do there, but it's very gentlemanly of him to play it out all the way until the end. So that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it and that it at least slightly improved your Sunday. I would like to thank David Marcus, Matthew Stroud, Jason Barr, Denise Jalet, and Ben O'Neill, and Ryan Doyle for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. I just realized I haven't updated my interface from the previous video. I mean, I did update it. I just didn't click update, so we get the same people twice. But you know. It's lucky you. What can I say? So the interface will be updated in the next one. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys soon with some more videos from the Paul Morphy saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever happens in the chess world. The Legends of Chess tournament starts tomorrow. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your Sunday.